November 2011 Radnor Township Shade Tree Commission meeting. Sue, is Doug coming tonight? Okay, very good. Okay, very good. We have 4 items on the agenda this evening. The first one being 200 North Radnor Chester Road. If you could come to the podium, please identify yourself.
On Realty Trust, Vice President. At our last session when we were here, you had expressed some concern about the revised grading that was going on in the revised plan on the eastern edge of the property. We revised all the grading and made some legitimate changes to the stormwater management system here so that we were able to avoid all the cuts that we were proposing along that line, and which was in this area here. At the same time, we're also showing the shade protection areas around the large trees that you had suggested we do, and to keep out of the drip edge altogether. So I believe we made all the changes that you suggested to this plan. Since we were with you the last time, the Planning Commission recommended this, and the Design Review Committee recommended it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you have the plan that you originally showed us?
Yes, I do have that.
I'm looking at C4 and C7. Is there a difference between those two? Or?
That's the original one.
Which one?
This is what was submitted originally that you reviewed last month.
Is that in the package that you gave us?
The new package? They were submitted to, yeah.
Okay, but what was pre-existing? Do we have that in front of us? Okay.
I'm on C7 here.
And you're on C7 of the original.
Well, the original revised.
And just to make sure we're looking at the right, are there multiple several C7s, or is there only one C7? So should I look at the date to make sure we've got the right one, or?
No, there was only one.
Okay.
The one I'm looking at was last revised on 8/19. What's the date on yours?
Yeah, okay, I have
8/19.
revision
Yep.
7, and this is revision 8, so this is the difference between the two. Okay, thank you.
This is from the last one.
So this is the.
That field drain's existing.
So the field drain above the
20,
28-inch maple
exists.
is existing, but you're tying into it in new work, right?
correct.
So the only thing that I can see to finalize the plan here would be to have the tree protection fencing go all
All
the,
the way around the tree? Okay.
yeah.
Not a problem. We'll just submit that. We won't have to come back?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
Do you have-
Yep.
Looks good?
Okay, great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Pardon? Thanks. Okay, 605 Longchamps Drive.
Good evening. My name is Dean Deal from Shriner Tree Care.
Okay,
The purpose to this initial plan is to stop runoff. Stop runoff from the Neelys over to the Foleys. There's this is the Neely's home. This arrow is showing how the runoff goes from the front of the Foley's property through the woodland to Foley's woodland, onto the driveway and into their rear lawn. The Foleys a couple times have tried to establish a lawn off their driveway, but the water brings silt and dirt from the woodland on a hard rain onto their drive and onto the lawn, and while they've tried to establish it, it still hasn't been done yet. So I was asked to thin out the trees to allow more light to get in to establish a lawn. It wasn't practical because there's too many trees, so it would be honestly a waste of money. So I suggested that because the sun starts here and enters the property and then swings around, that we could get a half a day's sun in there if we eliminate some of the border trees. So the idea was then, I've selected trees that would allow the sun to get in there, planting a shade mix, unless they decide to go with sod. And it'll look more formal in there. Right now it's a woodland, but we can establish a lawn in there so it'll look more formal, but mostly just to stop the runoff. If you have any questions, please ask me, but it'll benefit not only what the Neelys want for a look, but it'll honestly help the Foleys when they establish a lawn again, that this runoff won't keep occurring after a hard rain. Now, the largest tree that we selected to remove is a heritage tree. It's a 37-inch tulip poplar. But it's the worst of all the trees because it's been hit by lightning and has dead limbs in it. The rest, honestly, there's nothing wrong with the trees as far as health, except there's just too many of them and you couldn't establish a lawn underneath them. Oh, do you have a picture? Yes. I brought a black and white myself, but the color picture that you have, I can only, I think, hold to my advantage that no matter how far I stood away from the Foley's, from the Neely's home, in the cul-de-sac and took the picture, that's what comes up. All I get is tree, even on a wide angle. That's how many are in there. So I couldn't get a definition of any one tree. It's just a mass of trees in that small area. The trees in the back inside the fence are not going to be touched except for some safety pruning. But I included them just to let you see how many trees are on that property, both in the front and rear. So the sun comes in through the backyard to the right side of the house, and at the end of the day ends up going in the same direction that that arrow is to show the water runoff. So at the end of the day, the sun is out in the street aiming in towards the house.
So it's running off of the driveway of the cul-de-sac?
It is. It is. You can't see it there because I wasn't kind enough to give you elevations. But where the curbing is, that swirled curbing, it's a 5-foot rise from the curbing. It's level in about 12 feet. Then it drops down into the hollow where all the trees are. So that's why the runoff occurs. And it's high out at the curb, and everything tilts in.
Dean,
Yes.
where's the water coming? It's not coming off the street.
It is not. It is just coming off the woodland. And while trees absorb 15 times the water that a lawn does, there's just so much there that eventually when it drips through, because I didn't think it was that bad of a runoff till I went over after nothing like we've had now. This started a couple months ago. And when I went down to see the Foley's, the neighbor's driveway, there was areas that were planted and they had screening to hold the seed and part of the turf in, and it was all washed away. Nothing like we've just had, because that just was a huge deluge. It's not even a consideration that this was any good, but
Has this been an ongoing problem, or is this a
It has.
problem this year?
no, it's been ongoing. And they really, honestly, I felt didn't really want to do anything about it till they decided that the runoff was hurting the neighbor. The look at their house when the leaves and everything drove through would land back by their pool area and fence. So the runoff just got to them, and it was useless for me to thin trees out. It was either remove them, do it the right way, or just leave it the way it is. Right now, there's some dead trees in there. There's logs laying, big limbs from the trees that have fallen. So it'll be cleaned up. It'll look better. But the only way to do it is get rid of some of the trees.
Has there been any consideration to, some of the more aggressive ground covers rather than lawn under those trees?
I didn't. The trees were my responsibility. I'm not the one putting in the lawn, so that's another phase that I hear about, but I'm not part of. They would like lawn.
Howard, would lawn slow the movement of water per se, or change it, or putting in a lawn as versus to wood chips or just duff of a understory?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to gather here, is the slope such that you're experiencing significant erosion?
I'm not going to stand here and say the lawn will slow the runoff. I'm saying it won't allow the dirt to come with the water
Right.
into the neighbor's driveway and onto the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, honestly, Mr. Ward, it'll slow it down, no. But it'll provide something that will not be dirt placed from one area to another.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe this will work.
No, again, that's why I'm asking if ground covers have been sought, because if you are experiencing erosion and it's carrying silt and leaves and whatever, there are ground covers that can tolerate shady conditions and knit very firmly, more so than a lawn. I've experienced situations where, a lawn can't even sustain the runoff. And whether creating the lawn here is going to correct the runoff is in question.
I'm with you. And my explanation is, I know what the customer would like, a lawn, because it's more formal looking than chips or a type of ground cover. But if I laid my hand over here and said this was lawn, and this still remained woodland, because this all can't be grass. If this remained woodland up in the upper edge, this is this much less soil showing, so there's much less chance of runoff because you're already planting it with lawn anyway. So the lawn itself isn't going to create runoff, only in the upper edge where that might still remain a woodland, and there it could be chips or understory plantings or ground cover. But close to the curbing and in the very low area where my hand's laying, that could be, that they'd like it to be lawn. And the upper part, that is ideal for your recommendation.
That's a good question.
What is this that you're talking about, that would be turned over towards, trying to grow
Lawn.
grass? It's a lawn. And what percentage of that is, I have to agree with what I'm hearing up here. Sometimes it's much more difficult to sustain a lawn than it is other vegetation in this area to achieve the goal that you want. If it's just aesthetics, which it seems that the owner is looking at, okay, here in lawn, is that what we're going for, or is it to control?
Both. I'd say not one is any more important than the other. What preempted this was the runoff. And then when you decide, well, geez, what do I do about it? Their idea was to have a lawn. I don't know the square foot, but thinking for a second, 2/3 of that would be lawn and 1/3 would stay the way it is, if that helps you as a guide. And the upper end, this area is the area that would remain in woodland, natural the way it is now, or a ground cover. And from here down to meet the lawn that's already in right there, this is lawn right now. And this curbing that rolls approximately 15 feet in from this curbing, that's lawn. So this line, that's lawn now. But it's high.
What are those, you drew trees on the left side of the line you just drew, is that right?
Say that again.
There are trees on the left side of the line that you just drew? Is that all lawn?
The one I just drew?
Yeah.
Yes. Their property goes over to the Foley's, and there's actually more trees over here that are Foley's trees. I only showed...
Well, you're taking all of these trees down, or just the ones in yellow?
No, just 10 of them. They're marked on a...
The ones in yellow?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the number remaining would be 10 are coming out, and it would leave, is that an actual schematic?
It is.
Showing? Okay.
Yes.
You say the drop is 5 feet over a relatively short distance?
The curb and that area that I drew that is grass is higher than all the rest of that property.
Okay.
It drops down a slope and down it goes. And the farther it progresses down towards where my finger is, the lower it is.
Is the tulip tree hazardous?
A couple limbs are, but as a whole tree, no.
So just some pruning would make it not hazardous? Yep. I'm afraid I'm not convinced of the rationale for taking down the trees. I would have no problem taking down the 3 Norway maples, but there are other ground covers. There are shade. There's shade sod that can go down. So I'm afraid I don't agree with taking anything down other than the 3 Norway maples that are listed.
If that's your decision, I'll take it back.
So I'm one voice. I don't agree with the rationale. I think there are other things that can be done. I think there could be ground covers. There could be shade sod put down. But there are 3 Norway maples, which are an invasive exotic, and also would make it very hard to grow. It's very hard to grow anything under Norway maples. So I'm very fine with taking down the 3 Norway maples, but I don't agree with taking down anything else.
may I ask a question? If it's okay to take down the 3 Norway maples, I'm not sure they should do it anyway, because maybe you either do it all or don't. But if they did, are you saying it's okay to take those down and then try the ground cover? And do I have to come back again? And 2, if they're allowed to take the 3 Norway maples down, if they're allowed, can they remove that big tulip poplar? The one that's, I'm not saying is hazardous now, but it's in the worst condition of all of them because it drops big limbs. So the trunk's sound, but the top is dropping. The biggest limbs that are laying in the woodland area from the big tulip poplar. So I just wondered if we're allowed to take down, if they go that route, the Norway maples, may they take down the tulip poplar too?
So my proposal was to take down the Norway maples and not anything else, so no, not the poplar.
Okay.
But that's my suggestion.
Yeah, and you being an arborist yourself, that's what tulip poplars do. I mean, they do shed their lower branches. They're trying to be the highest tree in the forest, and that's how they get there. It doesn't necessarily mean that the tree is hazardous or a danger. That's their growth style. If it's not creating a hazard, I concur. I would suggest that try the Norway maples first and see where you go.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 520 Askin Road.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Palino here on behalf of the applicant. We're proposing to raise the existing dwelling on Askin Road and replace it with a new dwelling. The plan calls for the removal of 5 trees, and it calls for no replanting at this point, although as part of the construction there probably will be quite a bit of new planting put down, but the engineers didn't show any at this time. So it also shows tree protection fence around the existing trees that remain and any neighboring trees.
So you have 4 trees coming down, correct?
I thought I counted 5.
Or 5, maybe I'm missing one. Yep, 5.
5. 5 trees are to be removed according to the plan as well. There is an existing house. The existing house would be represented by this line here, that faint line. The new house is pretty sitting on top of the existing house, except it comes forward about maybe 10 or 15 feet to the front of the building envelope to create a larger backyard. And actually, to get within the building envelope, the present house is built outside the building envelope.
Now, that's on Ivan,
Askin is off of Brookside, right?
right, now that's like sort of halfway between Aberdeen Avenue and the next one down where the stop sign is that right? On Ivan, and Askin ends.
Askin's a little cul-de-sac that if you projected it through would tie back into Ivan,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. But this house actually is as if it's on the corner of Ivan and Askin, but the road doesn't connect.
All right.
So, but it's showing it as if it, as if it did.
But Askin's between, I guess it is Brookside, isn't it?
I think it's Brookside, yeah,
And,
and Ivan.
Oh, Askin's that little road that goes off To the left, I know.
To the
where it is.
left. It's a little dead end.
Yes. Is that a private road or a township road?
As far as I know, it's a township road, but
It looks awfully steep right up along Ivan Avenue. Does it drop off rather considerably there?
I would say it's steep. I don't think it's steep slope that's shown, but it is. You can tell by the shading. It's it's not flat the first little bit, and then well, you can see the contours.
How much, I can't read the contour line numbers.
Okay.
What is it, drop like 5 feet or 10 feet? Or?
Well, every contour is 2 feet.
Okay, so from coming off Ivan Avenue, it's dropping like 6 feet before you get down to where those trees are. Is that
Probably,
right?
yeah. That sounds right, too.
Now, you don't know where you're going to plant the new trees to replace those?
Well, right now, the plan's not calling for any to replace it. When they do a landscape plan, sometime towards completion, I'm sure they'll plant more trees, but at this point,
All right,
they're not calling for any replacements.
All right, but when we take down trees, we're supposed to replace at least with the same number or something like that. Are they willing to commit
I was
to
under
that?
the impression, at least the engineer was too, under the code, if we're more than 5, we offer compensation. Just between you and me, we've never done a house where we probably haven't planted 10 trees, but I'm just saying under the code, I believe we don't give compensation if it's 5 or less. 6 or more, we give compensation.
Okay.
So that's why he didn't show them.
Okay, the underground water retention thing there, that's going to be new?
That would be new.
It's not existing, okay.
No.
Where are the trees, are there any trees that are going to be remaining?
Yeah, there.
I didn't,
If you look, you can see them. They're plotted.
oh, they're right up along Ivan Avenue,
Excuse me?
or along Ivan Avenue.
Well,
Are they-
these are along Ivan, and then there's a 40-inch tulip in the backyard here. There's a 14-inch walnut, a 2x20 spruce, a 12-inch spruce, a 8-inch cherry.
But nothing in the middle where you're going to build, okay.
Well, the existing house is there. We're pretty much building on top of the existing home, and there's driveway in the front, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a 16-inch cherry that's just is not being protected by the tree protection fence.
Put your finger on it. Sorry, I'm the one. Sorry about that. Where's it at?
So
It's just below the 8-inch cedar, the X on the little
8-inch
palm,
cedar,
right below that, half an inch.
6-inch. So that tree fencing, we should show that fencing.
Is it 16?
Coming, we could probably move that fencing and swing it out to where it just comes almost like right through that 8-inch cedar, and it would also get us a little further away from the 30. What size is that oak? That wouldn't be a problem. Obviously, we'd have to take the tree down first, but we can show.
okay.
We can show the fencing doing something like that. Yeah, this is the tree you're talking about sitting right under the fence. You must have missed it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no reason that it couldn't come like this. And that would, like I said, probably help at least get us a little further away from the oak, too.
They're keeping these trees on the outside edge? They're taking down this big one? What about, are they leaving this? Is that a tree?
It's not a tree.
And they're taking this down, or they're leaving
No,
all
we're
these?
leaving all those.
That's pretty interesting. That's a 6-foot drop. All right.
Any further discussion? Okay, we're in accord. We would hope that, of course, given the caliber of the trees that they are taking down, that they would certainly consider planting additional large canopy trees.
There's no doubt they will. Like I said,
Right.
the engineer, when he was
Yeah, he
making the plan,
interpreted the-
just
right.
followed the code, and, if it didn't call for compensation, he didn't put it on. They're building a very nice house, and they will, spend money landscaping it. Just at this point, they haven't done a landscape plan.
Right.
And so he was just,
Okay,
trying to meet the code. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is 710 Sprawl Road.
The rest of my party's just arriving. We were outside trying to keep quiet. I'm Jonathan Alderson, landscape architect from Wayne, and I'm joined by Pat Spellman from Yerkes Associates and our client, Ms. Abry. We're here to present a revised plan showing tree replacements for trees that are in the process of getting removed or have been removed. What we've quantified on this plan are the live trees on the property. I'm not sure if you're aware of this property. This is kind of tough doing this. This is the first for me. Anyway, this property was basically let go. It had a number of trees that had died and were left standing. And we haven't counted those in the replacement calculation. We've only counted the trees that need to be removed that are alive but in a hazardous condition. And there's one tree, an ash tree, that's shown on the plan that you didn't see last time. That's going to need to be removed because we are going to be doing some regrading work around the back of the property. And so that accordingly is going to need to be removed. That's a healthy ash tree, a 34-inch ash.
Do you want to point to that with the pointer or with your finger? Yeah, either way.
Basically, around this side, there's a water problem, and Pat's developing a grading plan, and it's going to require a swale around here, and that ash tree is going to be right in the center of that swale. The trees we're proposing are shown on here. We haven't come to an exact planting plan yet, but we took your list and have sort of honed it down to some species. I don't know if you can see it because of the. I think you have the plans on your desk, but we haven't determined the exact species.
We're not finding the plan anyway.
You're not finding the plan? Well, I can give you a copy to hand around. It's a combination of shade and subcanopy flowering trees and three evergreens. We're going to plant the subcanopy flowering trees along the edge of the existing woodland, and we're going to add to a little copse, a wooded copse with some shade trees.
I'm only seeing 3 evergreens listed, or are you listing Magnolia virginiana as an evergreen? Or?
We were counting that as a subcanopy tree, but we've just got the Norway spruce and the white pine as evergreen.
So it's 2 evergreens you're using, okay.
You came before, you'd taken some trees down, you didn't realize there was a shade tree ordinance, is that right?
Right, and now we have this has been carrying on so long, we have water pouring in. We tried to sort of make the house livable. The house was unoccupied for 4 years and not really in a livable status, so we were trying to expedite things. I didn't realize that there was all this process, and now we have all mold growing in the house, so my kids are now living in an unlivable condition.
Are the trees with the X's there, are they already been taken down, for example, or are they ones to be taken down yet?
The ones that were basic, like almost everything that was left, Jim Ward saw and issued a hazardous tree report. So basically, all of those are cut down, but the stumps are still there. So that we can't do anything, we can't grade or do anything. And then the only other living tree I think still up is
the ash tree.
Is the one that we decided that rather than taking any chances, we better list it as a potential because of the grading.
This ash tree is still up.
But all the other X's there are gone. The X's behind the house and such.
Yeah, that's why we listed it removed or to be removed.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up the grading issue. That's our main priority, is the water coming into the house, overflowing in the house.
So what about the ones over by the pool? Are they still there, or have they been taken down?
I think one of the trees has, I don't think it's issued it, but one of the trees has like 3/4 of the way fallen on its own since we've been there. So there's I think there's some portion of it up, but it's not gone. But we haven't cut any more of it, but it's not really a full tree that's left. It's like sort of branches with some life to it, but not. There was nothing that was really a normal tree that we really cut. I think I brought in some videos of the ones that he issued a hazardous tree report that we cut. There wasn't a leaf on them.
That's why you can't do it.
Sit down. Lay down. Right, you need to just lay down. You're okay. Just lay down.
So what you're here requesting is the one additional tree, the 34-inch ash coming down. Is that correct, or are we reviewing the whole plan?
Well, it's just to acknowledge the fact that we're taking down 27 live trees and we're replacing those trees. Some of them have been taken down. We're replacing them with the 41 replacements.
So we're dealing with this as if none of these have been cut down.
Well, we've listed them live trees removed or to be removed, and we're now showing you what we're putting back.
Initially, we asked not to have to plant because we said the trees were damaged. And then they said, well, it doesn't matter if they're damaged or not. And now we're at such a state where the water's pouring in that basically we need to do something, so we'll plant. It doesn't matter. We were going to plant anyway. It's just that
It wasn't going to be now.
it wasn't our, it was trying to sequence, a house without water and electricity and heat and an undrivable driveway, so it wasn't really, that wasn't our top priority.
These are the trees that were taken down in July.
There were trees that were taken down before. Yeah, I mean there were.
I'm sorry, if you remember from last time, most of the trees were removed except for 7. And then of those 7, I think 3 or 4 of them were deemed hazardous and have since been taken down. But there's still this ash that has not been taken down, so there is the one tree still. But we are trying to make up for the total of the 27.
Isn't the whole back of the property woods now?
Yeah, it's heavily wooded.
Did you have that picture? Did you bring in the picture? That area?
I didn't have the presence of mind to bring the aerial photo.
You saw it last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Now, the other thing is, they have to work on the house, and the street, the spring up. I'm just,
Okay, no, our sense is that you can go forward and take that ash down.
Thank you.
When it comes to your planting schedule, what do you anticipate, the replanting schedule?
It will be, there's quite a bit of work to occur, as I said, with the regrading. So in all likelihood, it's probably not even going to be next spring. I don't know if the client knows that yet, but just the way things go, it may be that it's next fall. Some plants obviously won't be able to be planted because the fall digging hazards until
Right.
spring of 2013. It's not the kind of thing Ms. Avery's going to want to hear, but in all likelihood, that might occur. It might be over this 2012 and 2013 growing seasons.
does that sound rational to you guys? Or do you want it before
Just to sort of further clarify, there's heavy construction equipment that's going to be
Right.
coming in. We
Right.
don't want to be planting now or even in the spring and damage a recently
A
planted
recent plant, right. Right.
My concern would be, you don't want to lose sight of something by 2013 if we're protracting the schedule out that far. Who knows who will be on this board here to make sure that schedule is adhered to, other than good faith. That's my concern with protracting the schedule out that far. You're talking about 2 years out, if then.
I would like to say it was going to be a year, but just by the fact that it took us 3 months to get electricity and water, it's just been, we'd be all living in a habitable house at this point, and it's really, I haven't done the air testing in the house because I don't really want to know if we had to move in, but.
Yeah, and you're dealing with plants. It's not like you're dealing with, as you guys know, it's not a building that goes up. We've got, I should think, probably 70% of the plants that are on this list are fall digging hazards. So this project, given the weather, is not going to really get going until the spring. I mean, there's going to be some grading work to get the water away from the house, but it's not going to be...
What's your schedule for that? What do you anticipate that schedule for the grading work?
well,
and then
we're-
for the heavy construction work, so that you got an idea? You're looking at occupancy in a home, I assume by...
Our client is occupying the home right now, and that's the real concern, that we've got water coming in, damp, etc.
Every time it rains, there's several inches of water.
So we're waiting for a grading permit, which is, it's got to come through Shade Tree. We're going to be faced with, sooner rather than later, not getting germination. So it's really urgent that we move this ahead. But at the same time, we can't categorically say that we're going to be planting everything spring of 2012. As I said, 70% of the list is probably a fall digging hazard, and then it does kick it into 2013. I mean, the plan is here. I don't know legally how that's something that can go on the record with this project.
No, I think this can certainly go on the record, and then also there would be an escrow that would come into play as well, and then that escrow would not be released until the plan is delivered. So I think that's the guarantee.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
And good luck.
So now, what does the process go from here? Can we go ahead and have them clear the tree, or what do we do now?
Yeah, you can move forward and clear the tree, and then move forward with your grading permit.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Sorry about the kids. This is... Okay, guys, let's go. Now they want to stay.
Okay, 115 Stratford Avenue.
Hello. Bharat Luthra.
Thank you.
I took over this place 2 months ago, and this plan was given to me by the last owner, which was prepared in 2005. And since then, the building is lying vacant. No one occupied this place. And the trees mentioned here, out of these trees, we took down, what are shown here, we took down 4 trees from here. And I want to take down these pines from here and plant them along the fence facing my neighbors. So this is my new plan. So this green shows that the new trees are coming along the fence.
What are the pink ones?
Sorry?
The pink ones, are they
The
there?
pink ones are existing.
Thank you.
I'm taking down these pines, and just because this told me that it's like a buffer, so I want to put the buffer along the boundary line. Because if you will see in the site, this side is that the office building, which is the mainline Chamber of Commerce, and down here is Citizens Bank. And all the trees are going along this line with the neighbors. So I want to continue the same pattern to have more trees along that line.
What's achieved, can you just maintain the trees there and still put in additional trees for your buffer that you want?
I want to remove the middle, these pine trees, because one thing is that I want to make it like an open space, and it won't let, as per my landscaper, it won't let me, that the grass grow with all the falling of the needles and the shade. And I want to make it open, so I'm compensating those trees with the other trees.
I noticed along the top, there are 2 of the pink trees that have X's in them. You taking them out?
Yeah, they were the dead trees.
Oh, they're already gone?
Yeah, they were dead. Well, I mean, they were only like this much, but they were big trees, dead trees. So we took down those trees. And we took down one of the pine tree, which is, there are 6 shown here. One of them is down.
So how many did you take down?
From the big trees, 4 trees.
I have pictures here that suggest that many more than 4 were taken down.
Yeah, I was also provided by a small sketch by the inspector there. But you see, I was going as per the plan which was given to me by the old owner, that this is what existed in 2005. After that, they didn't plant anything. All that was growing was wild weeds, This place was in a very, very bad situation when I took it over. They were like 6 feet high weeds. So I cleared all that area to make it like a garden, like an open grass, open area. We planted all the new seeding there. So it's already growing, the grass is growing.
Okay, so you're saying that you inherited all these trees that were cut down previously? or you cut them down? That's the misunderstanding.
No, one thing is that when 2 months ago, before I take over the place, so there was one of the conditions that they will clean this lot for me. But
So you made a condition with the previous owner to clear the lot?
Yeah, to clear that, because they were very high, wild weeds there. So part of it they did, and part of that, once I took it over, because I wanted to plant the new seeding there, so my landscaper, he did it. But I did not ask him to remove any big trees, because as per the plans, this is what was shown to me, that this is what is existing. Yes, there were some more growings next to the pine trees and on the other side, and some in between, which my landscaper, my tree people told me that, you cannot even specify these trees. They are the wild weeds, Some of them were 6 inches, less than 6 inches, and some of them were even more than 6 inches.
But since you've taken over occupancy of the property,
Yes.
how many trees have been removed?
Well,
Since-
if
since
I
you
count,
have- yes, how many
now
trees?
if I count trees more than 6 inches, or shall I count even whatever
No,
size?
there's a distinction between weeds and trees. I'm talking about trees, not
Yeah.
weeds. How many trees, since you've been
There should be
occupying it,
there should maybe 10 or 12.
10 or 12 have
Yeah.
been removed?
Right.
Since you took the property?
Yes.
When was that? 2 months ago? or
2 months ago.
And you made settlement 2 months ago?
Yes.
And you've taken down 12 trees since then?
Yeah, because they cleared the lot, This lot was so wild, it was so bad, in a bad shape.
Are those trees shown on this?
No.
What about that little thing that the little one that you have right there? Does that show?
This was given to me by the township inspector, that he said that these trees were existing, which my people removed them.
Can we see that? Move it over. Yeah. Oh, that's helpful. See if we can blow it up a little bit. Okay, can you move it over so it's in the middle of Okay, that's cool.
So if I understand correctly, this evening you're asking to remove 6 more trees.
Yes.
Six
the
more,
6
so-
pine trees.
So that would add to the 10 to 12 that
Right.
have been, so we're up to 18 removed trees.
Yes,
and
if we
you're
count the 10, 12, the regular trees, then yes, about 18.
16 to 18 trees
Yes.
have been removed, and you're
Right.
proposing to plant 6 in lieu of those.
I can plant more. I have no problem planting more. And I was even thinking, if you have no objection, then between Citizen Bank and my property, this line here. This line here. So to make it more buffer, I can plant some more trees here. So it distinguish, my property, because Citizens Bank and my property is open now. Right now we put a fence there, but the fence has to go out, it's a cyclone fence. So I can protect this area with more trees here.
Cyclone fence has to go out
Yeah,
because,
once the renovation is done, then the cyclone fence will go out. Right now it's just protecting so nobody can just move on that side, So there is a cyclone fence is there, just for the renovation purpose.
It's just a temporary construction.
Yeah, it's temporary, yes.
And what is this, the pines that are noted in yellow?
Yeah,
You're cutting them down or you're moving them?
I'm cutting them down.
Cutting them down.
Yeah.
And what is the size of them? I can't read it on here.
It's like 15 inches,
15.
Some 15, some 18 like this.
Okay.
So there are 6 trees.
May I ask, what is the new proposed use for this property?
Restaurant.
Okay.
Is that the existing building right there? And on the bottom is,
This is the building.
And that's a restaurant, or it's going to be?
Yeah, it was a restaurant before, so it was then zoned again for the restaurant, in the last year's variance hearing, the zonal appeal. It was Villa Stratford.
So you're going to be proposing to remove those pines, the 15-inch ones,
Yes,
and just make an open space there with just
Yes.
grass planting?
grass planting.
In the lower end, you would consider putting additional trees in there?
Yes,
For
if-
another buffer
Yes,
along the lower end?
Right.
Yeah.
So am I understanding, you've removed already 18 trees, or is it?
no,
No.
like 10 to 12 trees we removed and 6 additional I want to
Six
remove.
additional, okay.
Yes.
Okay, from the photographs that were provided by the township inspector, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but it looks as though most of the trees that were removed would have been somewhere in the range of the 6 to 12 inch diameter breast height caliber, and the ordinance suggests that trees in that category, when removed, need to be replaced with one tree.
Okay.
So I'm counting 18 trees that appear that had already been removed. Correct?
As per my counting, they were not more than 6 inches thick, 18 trees. They were about 10 to 12. And out of these 10 to 12, there were 4 trees, they were completely dead, which we removed. They were like only this height, it must have been very old, very big trees.
Have you seen these pictures?
Yes, I have seen them. I have my pictures also, but I'm coming direct from the court. I was already late because there was something going on over there and I couldn't bring my pictures with me. But I agree.
What I'm trying to suggest-
I have my neighbor here with me who can testify that, what exactly was removed and how it was before and how it is now.
Yeah, okay. What I'm trying to suggest is you have expressed a willingness to plant additional trees.
Yes,
And so I'm trying to marry your suggestion of your willingness to plant additional trees
yes,
with the trees that you're asking to take down now,
yes,
as well as the trees that were removed prior.
yes,
And so if you're taking down, you said one of the pines is dead already?
yeah. One of pine is down.
Okay, it's already down.
It's already down.
And that was about a 15-inch tree.
Yes,
Yeah, I would recommend, and you all chip in, of the 5 pines that you have left,
yes,
you said they're about 15 inches?
yeah,
And is that at diameter, at breast height?
yes, something like that. I didn't
Okay.
count it, but it looks like around that size.
Okay, so that would be 10 trees
Okay,
replaced, in addition to the 18 that were removed previously.
okay,
And that would be 1 tree for each one that had been previously removed.
okay,
So total, you would be at 28 tree replacement value. Given what you have suggested on your plan, you may be very close to that already.
what I have suggested is, because here in this line I can plant maximum 6 more, because otherwise it will be too congested. And then I can go on this line, so maybe I can take about 6 to 8 trees more on this line here. So that will give you plenty of buffer from the Lancaster Avenue.
Okay? That's 12. We're getting there. You had 2 what I'm going to call your pink trees out here that were removed?
No, yeah, these 3, they were dead trees here.
Okay, so they were removed. So you
Yes.
put 2 back in there, correct?
Okay,
Howard, we walked this line here, this property line.
Yeah,
There was a series of bad trees, hazardous trees in 2005.
no, I remember that.
I think for the neighbor's sake, he should have an arborist report on the condition of those trees along the back. There were some silver maples and the red maples that were in poor condition at that time. A few of those are hazards still. They may have to go so we can buffer that back neighbor's line up before he tries to plant in between them at least. Because it's going to have a lot more room there than 6 trees if a few of those.
This corner is that the water, that.
Yeah, it's really wet back there.
Yeah, so I don't want to go very near to that place and block that place, because I think there is a underground, the water goes, all the the rainwater, it collects and it goes from that area. So I don't want to go very close to that area with tree planting, so it might disturb something.
Right.
Yeah, but we did walk the line that you're suggesting that you want to buffer up more.
Yes.
And Jim's suggestion is that perhaps have an arborist go through and identify the real health of the trees you're suggesting should remain, because many of those were not in good condition in 2005. And if they've not been removed, they're probably even worse condition now.
Those are already down, those trees. They were gone, only this much was left. So we cut it down. We didn't remove the stumps, we cut it down, those trees. There were 2 really bad trees, huge trees. Maybe once upon a time it was a huge, and it's shown in the plan here, these 2. So they are already down. I mean, there is one more tree right now with such a big hole where the neighbor says there is a raccoon, This is the place for them to. It's a huge tree and with a very big hole on it. But when the township told me don't touch anything, so we stopped.
Right.
When the 2 that are down, how big a diameter were they? Were they great big?
Like this big, They're really
So they were
big.
heritage, these 2 that you took down, that have the X's on them, they're heritage trees in effect, 30 inches or whatever?
Yeah, 13 inches, but they are already down. I didn't take them down. We only cut because only this much was left. They had a big hole inside the tree. So they were already down when I took over that property. We only cut the stem, that's it. We didn't take the whole tree down.
No, again, I would recommend that you would try to get back to the 28 trees. And I still would recommend that perhaps an arborist look at this line between you and your neighbors. Because you are already you're proposing to remove somewhat of a buffer with the pines.
Right. But don't you think that this line will give much more buffer than the pines standing in between? Is it there in the middle,
But at least it's some buffer. And
So that's why I'm proposing to plant more trees here, maybe 6 or 8 more trees.
well,
They
maybe
will, within a year, they will be grown big,
if you really want to create a buffer, you will be planting them more closely together, especially if you're using a tight evergreen. So 28 trees is not, I don't think, out of the question.
I don't know if, I'm not
Again,
sure, I have to check, if
Jim and I walked this property
There is
in
a place to-
2005, and it's a sizable stretch of land there, and I don't think you would have much trouble planting an evergreen buffer and coming up to the 28 trees.
See, originally those pines were planted for the neighbors.
I know.
because
Yep.
The lights from the parking lot
Yep.
shone into the houses. So if you cut all them down and you put them forward, they're still going to get the lights, unless you beef it up back there. So
I mean, that's the other issue, is to leave your pines until your other buffer kicks in.
I mean, this whole line, if we see, this whole line is full of trees, and they are 3, 6, I mean, 11, but two
But
are
if-
down already.
But
So
if I
only-
understand this comment, the concern is to the right there, the neighbors. The original reason for those pines were to prevent light infiltration into their properties, I assume.
Right.
So I know the upper level you have there, that buffer is there, but that's not the critical issue as I see it right now.
Okay.
It's to the right, because if you go ahead and proceed to take down those pines, the 6 or 7 there,
Yeah.
then you're going to create a problem for the neighbors to the right there until you have something back in there.
That's why I'm
Uh,
proposing these
yeah.
new trees here. around
And
this
I would
line.
have to go along with what the chair is saying up here, that you probably would have to increase the number there to,
I'm willing to increase it, but I don't see a room for 28 trees there. I'm willing to increase the number. I have no problem planting more trees.
No, yeah. You just need to come up with a landscape plan with a landscape architect and develop a proper plan for the back and come back to us with your plan, and we can review it at that time.
So I cannot take these trees down.
well, I think if you take the trees down now, we're going to create as soon as you have an operation there, a retail operation going on, you're creating a problem for those neighbors if those trees come down. Because that was the original reason why those trees went up many, many years ago, was to prevent, I think you're looking there, I assume the parking lot with cars coming in and out of there with headlights shining in their residences, and those pine trees were planted there with the purpose of minimizing that impact. If you go ahead, remove those trees, when do you anticipate your retail operation opening up?
It's going to take a year because the renovation is this place is totally gutted, you know. It's going to take a year, and I'm going to plant the trees, the replacement trees right now. So by the time my place is operational, the trees are already grown, you know, in 1 year.
I would have to defer to the gentleman to my right here about getting a plan together, you know, that would, number one, what is the goal of, and you would have to provide that to your landscape architect. Purpose of this is aesthetic, but most importantly is to prevent light infiltration into the residences, and see what he proposes. And what is the timetable, or she proposes, for that to take place, and schedule it in with when you're planning on opening up your establishment. You know, to plant something that you're going to get the full effect out of in 4 or 5 years is not going to help the residences during that period of time where the trees are going to start taking and meeting that goal. That's, if I was a resident there, that's what my concern would be.
Is there any other light shed problems associated with this operation? Are there other lights in the parking lot that bleed? Or are there lights on the building that bleed?
There is nothing right now.
Right, but when you reopen this facility,
Yeah. The only lights will be in the parking lot, you know, just to illuminate that parking lot area, but not pointing towards the neighbors.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
only-
that's what we mean by light shed. You want to keep it all,
Yeah, only because the parking is all to the left. Right side, I'm only creating a open space.
okay. No, I think the, the recommendation for you to seek a landscape architect and come up with a true planting plan that will indeed buffer you from the neighbors is a good suggestion, and that we should be aiming back to that 28 tree category. I really don't think you're going to have much trouble getting there. Right. Yeah, and I would not recommend taking down the pine trees until you have a landscape architect review the property.
Okay. I mean, my only landscaper told me that the grass cannot grow in this area as long as the pine trees are there. So I have to leave this area bald.
Well, it's pine tree mulch underneath those pines, right? And it's not the end of the world. I know you want to dress it up and make it But until we see a firm plan that will suggest a buffer for the neighbors, I would recommend they stay.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Is it possible that I'm his nearest neighbor?
Okay, sure. Please step up.
My name is Lee Williams. I live at 413 Windsor Avenue, which is on the top there. You can see that Windsor Avenue used to go through, and it dead ends at my driveway now.
Right.
The neighbors on one side, they're Farm Road neighbors, and he's really looking at their backyard in that area, and there is a fence that goes along there as well. My house faces Windsor Avenue, so I'm really looking at the restaurant and looking at the property. I've been there, well, it'll be 24 years this December, and it's never looked better than it looks right now. I mean, it was a mess, just neglected over the years. That, you know, it was a jungle back there where kids would come and have beer parties and whatever. It was just awful. So the other thing that I think speaks on his behalf is the fact that the Stratford Inn is over 100 years old now, and it's been deteriorating, left open to the weather for the past several years. His plans are to try and save it, to bring it back, and to bring it into use. So I think that speaks a little bit to the intentions of this person, and I'm sure that his intentions as far as landscaping and the trees and everything are good as well. And really, if you could have had a before and after picture up here of how it looks now as opposed to how it looked before that, I think it would say an awful lot on his behalf. And I just wanted to add that to make sure everyone was aware of it.
Is this the one that used to be San Francisco restaurant? Is that what
I'm sorry.
This used to be the San Francisco. I know
It was, the original owner was a football player, and then it was, after that, it was Chef Tell restaurant, but it was, I forget who he was. He was a professional football player that opened a restaurant there, and it was, I think it was called Francisco's Restaurant way back.
I was in high school, San Francisco. I don't want to tell you how long ago that was. But it's right behind where the rental car place is, right?
Yes.
It's an Enterprise Renter. I know exactly which one you're talking about. It would be hard to make it look worse.
No, I appreciate your interest in the property. It is, you know, a lovely building. It really is. And it's been difficult to watch it just decline. So that aspect I'm very much appreciative of, and I think for all those in Radnor Township we'd be appreciative. I just want to make sure that you're being guided with appropriate landscape guidance. You know, that's the goal here.
This is what you people want, you know. Can't say much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have several hazardous trees that were removed this past month. 312 Harbison Road, there was a dead tree approved and removed. And 350 Walnut Avenue, there were 4 trees removed, 2 Norway maples and 2 tulip poplars that were also considered hazardous. Is there any other business before the commission? Okay, so moved, and we will adjourn. See you next month.